Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, the Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the kid, the king of thieves, and the juicy Star Wars big boy, Steven.
The clown with the juicy countdown, Steven, what's up?
The what with the juicy countdown?
The clown with the juicy countdown.
Oh, that rhymes. That's better. I thought you said the plow with the juicy cow down.
The plow.
And I was like, where did that come from?
No.
Don't know what that's about.
That's a completely different energy. That's a different energy coming at you. Hey, guys.
Different kind of energy that we don't want here, because this is Chortlecast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about TV shows, movies, video games, mostly video games, and anything else we want to talk about. And we've got a great show for you this week. This is our official Best Games of 2019 Chortle Games edition. So what?
Third annual
Best Games of the Year 2019 edition, featuring Jake and Steven. It's technically your second annual, Steven, but the third for the channel, as this is our third year of doing this. And I can do basic math, and I'm proud of myself. Steven, I'm gonna derail for a second here. Did I tell you that I had a nightmare the other day that I was in a math class and I was doing math?
Please continue.
I was in college, I think, and I had for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to go get my master's in God knows what, and I was at my first class, whatever it was. I had stayed so late talking to the professor that I showed up late to my second class, which was math. And I'm pretty sure it was like algebra, maybe, or trig. It had a lot of those like parentheses, like solve in this order. You know what I'm talking about?
That's probably algebra.
Yeah, multiply, add, subtract, whatever. There's some acronym for it that I've completely forgotten.
Were there letters?
Do what?
Were there letters in the equation?
Yes.
Then it was algebra.
Okay, algebra. Anyway, show up late, first day. So she had given us a quiz that was kind of like a, what do you know? You know, like just let's get a baseline. And so my stupid self, because I haven't been in college for at least 2-3 years now, I just started playing on my phone. Full well, just in the middle of a test, just started playing on my phone. And then I tried to do some of the math, and then she was like, okay, we're done. Turn it back in. And I look on our syllabus, and that was like 20% of my grade was that test. And I was just like, whoa, hold up. Like, can I retake this? What is the deal? And she was like, no, you were playing on your phone, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, man, I hate school. Anyway.
So let me tell you about a nightmare that Anna had.
Please.
And this is, she told me that I needed to tell Krista this and everyone this because it's just too funny. This is a Krista featured nightmare, so
Those
you know it's going to be great.
Those are the best.
So apparently in this nightmare, and let me try to remember it as good as I can. Anna was with my family, and we were all hanging out at the park or something, and then she noticed one of the kids was gone, and she said that it got scary for a minute because oh my gosh, where's this kid? I think it was Joshua that was missing. He's the youngest boy. Mm-hmm. She was like, oh my gosh, where'd he go? We can't find him. And then apparently Krista appeared and just went, Anna, I know what you're looking for. You have to trust me. And Anna was like, okay. And Krista just kept saying you have to trust me. Come on. And they apparently walked all the way from this park to Jeremy and Krista's house in Florida. And the whole way Krista's like, Anna, trust me. And then eventually they get to the house. They walk in the front door. Then Krista turns around and opens the front door. And there's a snowman, but it's made of pumpkins. and she pulls the top off and looks in, and she just goes, "Dang, I really thought they were in there." And that's the dream.
Oh man.
And that was it.
Trust me. Like, I guess we gotta walk back to the park. Wow. What a great derailing of the intro this is.
Yep.
I just love it. If you're not here for this, then you shouldn't be.
Then why are you here?
Why are you
Get
here?
out.
You shouldn't be. Okay, so yeah, today we're going to be we're going to go over a lot of stuff because this is a really unique year in that this is the last year of this decade. So we're going to discuss several things. But one of the first things I wanted to pose this question now, and we will discuss it in a minute. But what?
And by minute, he means like an hour and a half.
Probably. What has been the most influential game of the last 10 years? And maybe not even like which one's the most, but like what are some of the most influential games of the last year?
Or what would you say that like was the most important game?
Right.
Like influential or important, either way, what would you say that is?
Yeah. And not even things like that you specifically enjoyed, but just like things that you've witnessed and realize, like see happen, and then things change based around that. And so one of our subs, Kaylin, submitted this to our Discord podcast question channels, which you can do as well. Join our Discord description of this video, podcast, whatever platform you're watching on. So we're going to go over the list that he had kind of provided, probably discuss some additional things as we go down that list. But anyway, I want in the chat, start doing your chat thing, think about it, talk about it. And until then, we are going to discuss our top 5 games of 2019. Now, these are games that Steven and I have played, and they are the games that we personally enjoyed the most this year. I imagine there will be some overlap. I imagine there will be some drastically different opinions on certain things. But it's not to say that it's what you, the audience viewer, should know is the best game. It is what me and Steven enjoyed most. And if you haven't played it yet, and you like what Steven and I like, you might say, I should put that on my list to play in January while I wait for everything great coming in 2020. And then also we're going to discuss the game that was the most disappointing to us this year.
Yep.
So not necessarily the worst game we've played, because I'm sure I haven't played the worst games of 2019, but just a game we were disappointed with. So we're going to do all that.
So
and then we'll come back and talk about games of the decade.
Yeah.
What do you got to say, Steven?
I was just going to reiterate, but then I thought about it and I was like, no, you're good. You nailed it. Quality intro, quality explanation.
I'm a great host.
Bravo.
No one pats my back around here. You know what I mean? So I've got to do it myself. Let's do it. Do you want to go first, Steven? We've got 5.
You're going first.
Okay.
5 each, right?
Yes. And we're going to do this
you're going first.
So I'm going to start with my number 5, and then you're going to give your number 5, and then my 4, your 4, and so on and so forth.
That is correct.
If for some reason we say my number 5 is your number 3, when we get to your number 3, we may just lightly discuss the same game. If we've already talked about it, we'll keep moving. But
right.
Anyway, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. My number 5 game of 2019 is Kingdom Hearts 3. Number 5 on that list. There are 4 other games.
This is in no particular
on
order,
this list
correct?
that I enjoyed more than Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'll be honest with you,
this
Kingdom
is
Hearts
in
almost
order.
wasn't even on this list.
Hold on. So this is in a particular order.
Yes. I want to, at the end of this, your number 1 is the game that you enjoyed the most in 2019.
But do I have to have enjoyed number 5 less than number 3?
Yes.
All right. Continue talking.
I was gonna say, while you
You can take a
rejigger
minute.
your list, we do this every year.
I'm gonna
This is
rejigger
3
my
years we've
list.
done it this way. Man,
I don't think, did we do it this way?
yes, hard.
Okay.
You know,
I know number one was always like number one, but
good,
go ahead. It's fine.
Good help
It's
is
fine.
hard to find, people. I'm just here to tell you. There's a tornado warning in my area.
Wow.
That's fun. Anyway, speaking of tornadoes, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, you guys getting tornado siren too?
Do what?
Are you guys getting a tornado siren too?
Yeah. Did you just get
Yeah,
that?
cool. Yeah, the courtesy of us up here or down here. That was our problem like 30 minutes ago. You're welcome.
Weird. Okay. Well, anyway, Kingdom Hearts 3. I believe if you were to go back to, most anticipated games of 2019 that we did last year or last January, Kingdom Hearts was probably number 2 or 3 on that list. I'd love for somebody, if you're in the chat and you can just correct me down there, that'd be great. But anyway, obviously I was very excited about it because Kingdom Hearts is very an important part of my video game history. And I'm a big fan of the series. I grew up on Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts was the game that got me to get a PS2, and my video game career kind of took off. Not career, but a whole new world of video games was opened up to me at that point because all I knew before then was Nintendo. So Kingdom Hearts has a special place in my heart. Kingdom Hearts 3 took almost 15 years to get here. And I'm not going to say it was my most obviously I'm going to talk about most disappointing game, but the reason it's number 5 is because it didn't capture the same magic that it did for me as a kid.
Right.
But to that same tune, it was nostalgic and it was enjoyable, and I did have a fun time playing it. But it just really, it kind of just opened my eyes to man, this series is not as good as I thought it was. Some of the story beats are just completely off the wall. A lot of Kingdom Hearts 3 is filler. We didn't need any of the Disney worlds. I gotta cough for a second. I'm gonna mute my mic and cough because I'm dying. Okay, I'm back. I still feel like I need to cough. Kingdom Hearts 3. Story is just way out there. We didn't need any of the Disney worlds. We could have just jumped straight to the end and that been the game, and then maybe gone to the Disney worlds, or just make the Disney worlds matter. I don't know. They could have done so much more. I'm excited about the new DLC that's coming out early 2020. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to get it. I'm probably going to play it. There are sirens going off, actual sirens now, not just my a phone alarm going off. So if you're hearing that, I apologize. That's on my end. But anyway, I don't know. It wasn't as good. The gameplay felt better than probably 2 did. And they did a lot of things to make it probably easier to play, but it still ultimately kind of felt like a PS2 game, or a PS3 game, which, again, kind of was nostalgic, and that was part of it. But I don't know. Ultimately, I had to put it on here because it's Kingdom Hearts, and I'm always going to be a Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm always going to be a diehard Kingdom Hearts fan. But it almost didn't make the top 5. I'll go ahead and say now, and feel free to do this on yours as well, Steven. My honorable mention was Control. So it was between Control and Kingdom Hearts 3 for slot 5, and I had to go with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Control was an honorable mention for me as well. It didn't make my list. Yeah, because honestly, if I had not played Alan Wake this year, Control probably would have made my list. But Control showed that while Remedy has come a long way in terms of gameplay and direction, like art direction and and I guess visual storytelling, their narrative is weaker than it once was. Like the story for Control didn't, like the overall story, like if there was a book for Control that was like, here's the overall idea of what Control is or something like that, I would be completely on board. But the narrative vehicle we took through Jesse Faden, her story, I just didn't like it. So
I really enjoyed the game. I never really finished Alan Wake, and I don't know as much of what's happening behind the scenes and between all the different games, aside from what you've told me, and what I've gained from you. But I really enjoyed the gameplay in Control. It was a little buggy, but they fixed a lot of that with patches. I enjoyed Jesse's journey, even though I was a little confused at what was really happening with her at times. But really for me, it was just the gameplay. It was so fun and enjoyable for me. I just wish they had added more powers and taken it further. And I hope with the DLCs that are coming out that they will push that further. But anyway, got an honorable mention for me as well.
For me, just final thoughts on Control. If they had done a better job with Jesse's story, or just done a better job with just the primary narrative, it probably would have been my game of the year. Because I loved everything else about it, but I just dislike Jessie so much. And not like, I don't hate her as a character, but I just don't like her. So like with her being such a key element, she to me personally is what held the game back from being a game of the year for me.
Gotcha.
But
all right, Steven, what is your number 5 game of the year? Meaning the lowest on your list of top 5.
Probably, since this bomb was just dropped on top of me.
I can almost guarantee you, if I was to rewind to the 20 best games of 2018, I guarantee you at the top of the show, when I start the list, you go, wait a minute, are these in a certain order? And I explain the process again. Anyway, I digress.
Kalen, grab the clip, find it, meet us on the Discord.
This war will be settled in the Discord.
Put this to bed. So my number 5 would probably be Outer Worlds.
Okay.
And I know, like, the way I've talked about this game in the past, you are probably surprised that it's so low.
Honestly, I'm not, because I feel like you've said, right now this is my game of the year, at least 3 times. So I'm surprised to see it this low, because I figured it would be probably like 3. But
I never said that it was my game of the year. I said that it was one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
Okay.
Which is true.
Okay, all right.
Which is true. But there's a caveat there. Because Outer Worlds is basically, if you've watched Firefly, it's just Firefly made into a video game, which is fantastic. And a lot of people have said, like, there's kind of a dividing factor with Outer Worlds. No one thinks it's terrible, but then there are those who think it's the most amazing thing they've ever played, and then there are those that just say Outer Worlds is only considered good because it wasn't bad. Kind of the whole Jedi Fallen Order argument, where we think it's a lot better because we were expecting much worse.
I can understand that.
And I can understand that perspective with Outer Worlds. Because ultimately, it does feel like, and I've said this before about the game, it does feel like a game that came out in like 2012, before microtransactions, before longevity was so important to games that were released. But I say that as a good thing, primarily because it was refreshing. It reminded me of the industry before it got so muddied. But I do understand the whole, it feels like a game we've already played argument. And I do agree that there is a lack of variety in items. That's something that I noticed the more I played it, was that the armor didn't look very different from it's like you had maybe like 4 armor types. And they just changed in color, and then there were various other unique armor pieces. Like, there just wasn't much in terms of loot.
Right.
And same with the weapons. But at the end of the day, that's not what the game was trying to be. It was trying to be more of a story-driven kind of game. And in terms of story and diversity in choice there, it nails it. And that's why the game stood out to me so much and still does. Because the premise of you are a swashbuckling space captain with your crew of likable heroes, basically doing odd and end jobs around the galaxy. Like I love that idea, the whole space western kind of approach. I love that. And so the premise, when they did it well, it stood out to me because it was like, sure, this doesn't sound very original, but it does all of these, I guess, unoriginal things
Really well.
really well.
Yeah.
To where it stands out to me personally, a fan of those things, because it's the best version of that experience I've had so far.
Well, I like it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Did you? And we've already talked about Control. That was your honorable mention as well. I like that was the same
That,
for us. That's fun.
yeah, I wasn't surprised by that being a mutual honorable mention, honestly.
Well, I'll jump to my number 4. This is my number 4 game of 2019, and you kind of mentioned it, Fallen Order. Now, I know what you're thinking, Steven. You're thinking, wow, Jake, you liked Fallen Order better than Kingdom Hearts 3? Yes, I did, Steven. I did. Now, I'm going to level with you. The game was frustrating. There were glitches. And much like you said, we were expecting it to be bad, and then it was really good. So we think it's even better, you know? Yep. But it's, I mean, and maybe the, what do they call it? Closeness bias, recency bias.
Recency bias.
Is playing a little bit of a role in that. But ultimately, I really enjoyed the game, and I played it to the end, which is, if I can do that, that's pretty good nowadays. Because Luigi's Mansion was a game I enjoyed, but I haven't beaten it. You know, there are several games that I just didn't finish because something else came up and moved on. So, but I really enjoyed Fallen Order. People keep calling it a Souls game, and it's definitely difficult and has those kind of boss fights.
It is a Souls game.
It's what?
It is. It is a Souls game.
Right.
It's just an easy Souls game.
That's what I was going to say. It's baby's first Souls game with a little Star Wars paint.
Yes.
Yeah. But once you unlock like double jump and you get a lot more of your force powers, and you really start to kind of combine force powers with the lightsaber, doing throws, and there's moves where you can like spin out your lightsaber, and you eventually get a lot of upgrades for your lightsaber. So as you get further in, it gets a lot more fun, especially when you start fighting stormtroopers and stuff that early on weren't hard, but you kind of had to weasel your way around. Once you get everything unlocked, it looks like the demos that they showed at E3, where they're goofing around and like they froze a guy's laser bolt, pulled him forward and walked him into it. Like those kind of moments happen when you're fully powered and go back. Honestly, I really enjoyed the story of it. I liked kind of what they did with the characters, and I learned a lot about Dathomir. Is that how you say it?
Dathomir,
Dathomir,
the planet.
Yeah. I didn't realize what was all going on there and how that kind of ties into Darth Maul and some other stuff. The Night Sisters, I didn't know what that is, but like watching Mandalorian, and for anyone who's not caught up with season 8, I'm not going to spoil anything, but you should be watching that, Steven. But there's something that happens there, and I'm suddenly catching, like I'm recognizing things that I never knew or understood before. So
right.
I like what it did with the universe that they had. And frankly, I hope we see more things like that from EA.
Yeah.
Where we get good Star Wars story with good gameplay. And hopefully they'll just do it a little better next time. That's all I want, you know. But it was great.
Right.
Really enjoyed it. What's your number
Yeah,
4, Steven? Or do you have comments on that?
Well, I just wanted to comment on that because that I considered making that my number 4. But you pretty much hit the nail on the head. And for me, and I do still have a number 4, but I knew that you'd put it as on your list. So, but for me, it kind of saved Star Wars for me. Because Rise of Skywalker, we all know how I feel about that. Go watch last week's podcast. And Mandalorian's good, but it has some concerns for the future. And so, like, if Mandalorian had come out, but Rise of Skywalker had tanked, I would have been like, okay, so Star Wars just sucks now. But the fact that Jedi Fallen Order came out and was good and told a good story with good characters, was fun to play and pretty true to itself, it gives me hope for the franchise that, hey, good Star Wars games can happen. And EA did it. Respawn did it. Let's be real. Respawn's the hero here. But it can happen. And so it made it to where Rise of Skywalker, I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker more because Jedi Fallen Order existed, because I was able to go into that movie just being like, whatever comes out of this movie, I'm coming out of this movie
still with Fallen
knowing
Order.
that Disney's, I've still got Fallen Order and Disney's trilogy is done.
Yeah.
You know? So I have to give Fallen Order props that it came out at such a time to where we needed Fallen Order to exist, honestly. So I'm glad that it does.
We got Fallen Order. We got Mandalorian. We're on the uptick, you know?
We are.
Disney's trilogy is over. They still own it, but hopefully they'll
And
do
apparently they're
something
doing an Old Republic movie.
Yeah,
next.
Lots of rumors about that. That could be really cool. So
I'm really hoping that's real.
yeah.
So my number 4.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there.
Okay.
It was a tie
Okay.
between one game I haven't talked about in a really long time and another game which I haven't talked about much at all. And I'm going to talk lightly on both of them, I guess, so that it feels about the same time as one individual would. Daemon X Machina.
Okay.
And Monster Hunter Iceborne.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this tornado is getting closer and closer, and I now realize that it is a serious situation that I need to look at. So, I've got to go. And we're back, everybody. Thank you, Steven, for letting me dip out there. I am, in fact, alive. My home is, in fact, still intact. And, Steven, we had just completed discussing, I believe, your number 4 game of 2000.
We had just started discussing my number 4.
You had finished one of those games.
I had literally just finished saying the name of the game.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Daemon X Machina.
Yes, I remember that game.
I haven't talked about it in a while. Really liked that game. It kind of revived. I don't know if revived or revitalized is the right term, because I know it didn't do too great here in the West. But I thought it was a great mech action game, and I wish that somebody else had bought it so that I could have actually played the co-op. But it's a great game. A lot of fun. Thought it was worth mentioning. And then my other number 4 is Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
A whole new game that came out in 2018.
Iceborne basically added an entire new game's worth of content.
I know.
And it's 2019. The year is 2019. I know Tornado messes up your brain and everything, but it
No, I'm saying that Monster Hunter came out in 2018, and then Monster Hunter Iceborne came out in 2019.
then I just don't understand. I just don't understand why you like the comment.
You put a 2018 game on a
Iceborne is a 2019. Look, if
list.
the Game Awards can keep putting in games that just keep getting new content in their awards, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. That's why this one gets a half award, Jake.
Fair enough.
So get off my back. There's going to be another 2018 game in this list, and you're just going to have to get over it. So, Iceborne, really good expansion that really expanded on the combat, gave a crap ton of new monsters to fight, new gear to search for, and they added transmog kind of for armor, so you don't have to. I don't have to look like a male gypsy stripper whenever I play the game now, which is really cool. That's what I looked like in vanilla game because I just wore Kuliaku armor because it's the only armor I could get by myself because I was terrible at the game.
I was about to say
So, yeah,
that's such a great quote to pull from you. Like, now I don't have to look like some gypsy stripper.
Some male gypsy stripper, yeah. So Iceborne, very good. Jake's going to learn that soon enough, though, because I'm going to force him to play it with me. Not Iceborne, regular Monster Hunter.
Hey,
but then he'll like it so much that he's going to get Iceborne.
Let's go. I got, I'm ready.
Actually, Brody, Miles, and I are playing Divinity or Monster Hunter tonight at 7 as of recording this. So you should play.
I should, but I had dinner plans at that point, so I apologize. But if you had let me know sooner, I could have done it. And we could have streamed it, and it would have been great. But no, Steven doesn't prepare.
You know.
Springs.
I don't prepare. I don't prepare. What's number 3, Jake? Before
Number 3. Speaking of being prepared, we should all be prepared for the zombie apocalypse. Just like in Days Gone, my number 3 game of 2019. Now, Steven, I know what you're thinking. Days Gone? What? Yes.
Actually,
Steven.
I was thinking dinner plans surely can't last that long past 7, so I think Jake's just avoiding me.
Depending on how late y'all go, I'll join you. But
okay.
Days Gone. It was one of those games that was talked about, right alongside with God of War and Spider-Man. They were kind of all announced at the same time. But it was, at least from where I was sitting, most people were kind of like, what? What is this game? Why are we still talking about this? And as it got closer and closer to time, I feel like perfect example, the last E3 that PlayStation did, they had that pre-show, right? They announced the release date of Days Gone at that pre-show. And it was just like, ugh, this game doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of how the marketing started to spew it. But reviews came out and they were kind of middling. They were saying it wasn't very good. But at some point, I started watching demo videos and kind of like pre-release footage of the Horde and all this other stuff that the game was doing that was unique. And I just was like, oh, I really want to try like taking on a Horde. I really want to get into this. And I got really excited about the game. And so I got it this year. I played it, and I really, really enjoyed it. Again, I beat the whole game. It's a pretty sizable game. It goes on and on and on. There are tons of hordes that you can fight. It has problems. Like, they should have let you be able to start taking on hordes a lot sooner. You obviously can, but, like, you're kind of making it work at that point. You're not really equipped properly to take on hordes.
Right.
And, like, honestly, I could probably do a couple streams where I just continue taking down hordes now that I'm prepared, because there's so many hordes that are left in the game because I wasn't able to go take care of them during the game.
Right.
But anyway, it was really fun. The story was okay. It didn't go quite where I thought it would in some places.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it, and the game was a lot of fun. The motorcycle was really cool. I really liked it. So, anyway, Days Gone, number 3. Steven, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a game that technically came out in 2018, but if games coming out in 2018 in December can be nominated for 2019's Game of the Year at the Game Awards, then I can do whatever I want.
That's not how we do these awards, Steven, but go ahead.
If this wasn't, it's Hades. It's Hades, and I'm
That's your number
hand waving
3?
it because that's my number 3.
When did it come out?
December of 2018, okay. But it's an early access title, and I just got it a few weeks ago.
Early
so
access?
It's early. It was early access when it came out. It still is. Yeah. So it's developed a lot over time, but and this is one of those games that's like just purely from the level of like enjoyment, because a game like Monster Hunter, just it being number 4. I enjoy it a lot when I'm playing with somebody else, but the enjoyment is purely coming off of like creating neat builds and just fighting gigantic monsters. It's a gameplay appeal to me. Hades hit all of the right notes. That's kind of a pun. I didn't even realize that. It's enjoyable, fun, entertaining from all sides. It tells an interesting story with really likable characters that are fun portrayals of characters we already know from mythology. The action and gameplay is really fun. It's really solid. I love a good roguelike, and it handles that roguelike concept very well in such a way that I'm surprised no one else has done it before. And the music is phenomenal. Darren Korb did it again. Probably my favorite work he's done so far, which is saying something considering the Bastion review that I literally just did.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hades, great game. When it comes out on console, which I'm sure it will, I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of roguelikes or video game music or action games.
Pantheon.
Yeah.
Full House.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So imagine the Greek pantheon, but in terms of Full House characters. Like, okay, can you clarify this for me? Is it Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey?
Yes.
Which one's Jesse and which one's Joey?
Joey is the cool one, and Jesse.
Are you sure about that?
The kind of quirky one, I think.
See, that's what I thought, and then I was like, but wait, I don't know if that's true.
Hang on, I'm gonna do a quick internet search to clarify.
Joey is the quirky one. Just searched. Jesse is the cool one.
See, that's what I said, and you got me confused.
No.
So,
okay.
A little embarrassed, Steven, for you.
Poseidon would be Joey. Hades would be Jesse, and then Bob Saget would be Zeus.
Thank you for clarifying.
Number 2.
All right, number 2, game of 2019 for me, Jake. Pokemon Sword, not and Shield because I didn't play Shield, but it's Pokemon Sword. Obviously, big fan of Pokemon. I was very excited for this game going into the year, and for me personally, the game did not disappoint. It did a lot of. They didn't change or mix up the formula too much. In fact, it's very, very similar to base Pokemon, normal Pokemon games, but on a Switch, on a handheld console, and so the graphics look better than they have in years past. Not crazy good, like we not Breath of the Wild level, uh, you know,
Right.
moments, but from Sun and Moon to what we have on Sword, it's crazy, and it's just because that's so many years of a jump, and it's still not caught up. You know what I mean? Is what I'm saying. So like, way better. Um, the the camping, the wild area was very cool. I wish they had done more with the wild area. I liked camping and getting to see all my Pokemon there, and then getting to interact with them. That was fun.
Yeah.
Things like the cooking curry. Like it's a little mini game, has a little bit of a benefit. I wish they had done more with that. Kind of like in Breath of the Wild, I feel like they were just kept trying to tack on some easy, quick Breath of the Wild things. But like Pokemon battles were great. Some of the new Pokemon additions were great. Gigantamaxing, I was a little like, I don't love this. I thought Mega Evolutions were cooler, but after my very first Dynamax battle or raid, like that moment you throw your Pokeball back and they Gigantamax or Dynamax, it's just exciting, and the music when that's happening is really good, and so it's fun. The excitement wears down a little bit, especially if you're somebody who's playing like to get shinies, or you're shiny hunting, or you're doing whatever. Like at a certain point, the magic starts to wear off, but it's still a lot of fun for your first playthrough. Really enjoyed some of the new Pokemon. I've talked about that. A lot of people were upset about the national decks. The Pokemon I cared about were in there, so that just didn't affect me as much. I thought it was a good first step for, hey, we've brought Pokemon into the is this the 21st century still? Yeah, 21st century.
Yes.
We're up to at least a little bit closer to snuff than what we have been, and so I hope that now that they've done this, now that they've done Pokemon Let's Go, I hope the next Pokemon game is that Breath of the Wild moment where it really takes off. But all that to say, I enjoyed the hell out of Pokemon Sword. I want to play more of it. I want to continue playing it into 2020, and I hope, with the raid, they're doing special raids, and like a Gigantamax Snorlax came out recently, and we know there's some other ones that are kind of coming. So all those things are fun and kind of cool and an interesting way to keep the game alive. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Cool.
What's your number two, Steven?
My number two might be a little bit of a surprise to you, and it probably wouldn't have been my number two up until a week ago. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Okay. Not
So
terribly surprising, but okay.
So it may be a little surprising to some people because I haven't talked about it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But this game is it's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's so replayable. They've been offering so much new content with the expansion pass and some for free. They just came out with the X-Men pack, and Cable and Iceman are both two of my core four now. They're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I played it more this week, trying out the new characters, I started to realize, like, it's one of those games that for me personally, I can just pick up and have a good time playing by myself or, with other people if anyone would play it with me.
Steven, I feel bad for you, man. Your friends are horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are.
Like,
They are, yeah. That's kind of the theme of this year is 2019 would have been a much better year for me if my friends didn't suck.
look, it's just that I don't have a lot of opportunities to play video games. And then the opportunities that I have to be quiet.
Okay.
It just telling you.
It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, it's really good. There's a surprisingly deep level of upgrading and not necessarily customization, but more so it's like just a lot of stats that you can alter and upgrade and change and stuff. And it's the kind of game that for me, it's just satisfying for me to play and continually upgrade my characters and come up with new team ideas. Right now, my current team is Star-Lord, Cyclops, Cable, and Iceman. So Star-Lord and 3 X-Men.
Let's say, yeah, a lot of X-Men and Star-Lord.
But it is a super stacked team. And I've got a backup team that's Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Loki, and Scarlet Witch. That's my magic team.
Nice.
And they're really good. But it's just a lot of fun. Is it the best story experience you'll have? No, but it's definitely for the fans. Is how it feels.
It's fun.
The voice acting's incredible. Is the gameplay the best? No, but
it's fun.
I mean it's
that's
fun.
What matters.
It's just a fun game. And so as far as games I've gotten most enjoyment out of, that's definitely up there because I keep coming back to it. And they keep updating it, so I'll keep playing it.
Stephen, I am so glad that we're here about to discuss our number one game of 2019. And I was
You say game,
I was
so
a
I think
little
that it's
nervous
the same game.
when you started saying I was going to be surprised at your number two, because I was afraid it was going to be what I put down for my number one, and we weren't going to be able to say it at the same time. So I'm like 99% sure that we've chosen the same game for number one. Would you like to say it together?
Yes. On 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Fire Emblem
Death
Three
Stranding.
Houses.
Fire Emblem. It's Fire Emblem. Death Stranding needed to be mentioned.
So I'll
just because
give
it's
a
my one per video.
Steven, I went to GameStop today to buy your Christmas present. And I think you're going to like it.
I swear, Jake, if you got me a copy of Death Stranding, I will throw it at you.
I will go to tangent on my own tangent. I did, when we walked in, I said to Lee Allison, I was like, you're going to have to kind of hone me in here because my instinct is going to be to get Steven something I know he will hate just to mess with him. But I was like, but we got to get him a good gift, which I did. So
I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm going to tell you this because at this point you still have time to go back to GameStop and return it, and by time I mean you have 20 minutes. If you get me Death Stranding, I will never forgive you. That is the point of no return, Jake.
Oh, man. My original point that I was trying to make in this tangent was once we kind of had decided on what your gift was and we were kind of getting ready to leave, I was like, you know what? Let me look around real quick. I want to see something. So I went to the PlayStation area, saw a sale, and I was basically looking for, pre-owned stuff. I wanted to know how far Death Stranding had fallen already. Yep. It was, I think, $39 for a pre-owned copy. I was like, it's not enough.
Yep.
I got to get it down to like $30 or $20 to really get it. You know what I mean?
We've proven that the only terms that will get me to play that game are if you literally pay children in hospitals for me to play the game.
Wow.
So yeah, Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Fire Emblem 3
That's our game of the year.
Houses. Who would have thunk? Looking at in January of 2019, when we talked about what are we most excited about, I don't think I had put Fire Emblem. In fact, I think I had taken it off because
you did. After
looking at all you're a professor and you're managing your students and everything, I was just like, I ain't about this. I don't know what I thought this was going to be, but this ain't it. And then after hearing you and Brody talk about it, I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And I mean, streams can attest to it. Like, you had to drag me physically sometimes away from this game to do anything. It took over my life for a period of time. If I remember correctly, I beat the game before you did, because you had started
No, you
before
didn't.
me, and then I got all the way through.
I beat the game before you did, but you were very close behind me.
Gotcha. What an amazing game!
You beat the game faster than I did, but I still beat it first.
What an amazing game!
To clarify.
The characters,
It's so good.
fantastic. Like, the thing I love about Pokemon, right, or that everybody probably loves about Pokemon, is the Pokemon. And they're so cute and they're so lovable. But, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, and especially when we have, like, almost 1,000 now,
Yeah.
they're all, personality-wise, kind of the same. You know? Like, there are some
Yeah,
that stand out. There's some that are real special. But, like, these were
But you say
these were
hi to
people.
Pikachu, chances are he's gonna say Pikachu. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But you had, man, like Dorothea, Anna, was it Anna or Annie?
Annette. You
Annette.
literally
I
married her,
married her.
Jake.
I can't remember her name. That's where I'm at. Man, I need to go back and play
Yeah.
this game. But like the relationships that you form with these characters, and then just because you focus on your house, and then you might branch out a little bit. You play the game multiple times. You get to meet more people. You get to see the story from different angles. It's crazy. And like I've only played Golden Deer, Best House, Fight Me, whatever. I can't. I will not probably be able to play the game as a different house, just because of what I know happens. But I've watched a lot of stuff about like, hey, what happens if you play this and do this, and you know, how does this happen if you say no to this person, and all these different just rabbit trails you can go down, and like, it's a completely different game. It's 3 games that have all the same characters, and it's just completely different depending on how you play it.
And every single character feels like a main character if you so choose it to be that way.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's what's so impressive to me, because they all are likable in their own way, except for like Edelgard and most of Black Eagles, because they're trash. Fight me. Everyone outside of that house is likable in their own way, and I would share my stories about like Ash, my favorite character in the game, and then you would tell me about Raphael and his tragic backstory.
Man.
It's just like, man,
Effing
I need to play this game.
Raphael, dude.
Yeah. And it's one of those games that I intentionally only played it once this year because I knew that I'm always itching to play it again. I'm always itching to start my Golden Deer playthrough on the next difficulty up on New Game Plus, so I can get some different experience. But now I'm literally having to fight myself back from playing it just so I can maybe wait and hold out till the DLC
That's
comes.
exactly what I'm holding out for right now. And now that we're talking about it, that itch is coming. You know what I mean? Like, I feel it. I got to scratch it. But knowing that we're not at the end of the DLC yet, there's more stuff coming, I'm just going to wait. I've got to wait until everything is there, and then I'm probably going to do another Golden Deer playthrough.
I really encourage you to play Blue Lions.
I really want to throw that back at you, Steven, and say no. Because
I'm going to play Golden Deer.
I'll be damned. Well, because Golden Deer is the right answer, Steven. Golden Deer is the right answer.
Blue Lions is the best house. Golden Deer has the best ruler.
I am appalled and aghast that you would say
How
such a thing.
dare you? How dare you
Now-
come to me in my house?
No, I will
The
say
Fire Emblem Three Houses house.
I did literally recruit everyone out of Blue Lions. So I'm not saying you
And I
have
bet-
bad characters in there, but I would take my Golden Deers, my little fawns, my little babies, and I would throw them at your lions any day, and they're great. You tell me, Steven, that you like the Guardians of the Galaxy. You can't tell me that the Golden Deer isn't the best house.
The hell does that even mean?
They are a ragtag team of fun-loving dudes and ladies who know how to kick butt and take name.
And Blue Lions is literally like Golden Deer is a lot of commoners and people on one side of the spectrum. Black Eagles is the exact opposite, where it's all royalty. But in Blue Lions, you have the middle. You have literally the common folk and the royalty in one house. Because I believe Mercedes was adopted into royalty, or adopted out of royalty, actually. Ash was adopted into royalty. I think that's what it was. So you have literally the most diverse cast in Blue Lions that feels like an homage to traditional Fire Emblem, which makes it the best. Golden Deer is just there for the memes.
And I think that's why they're the best. But I won't argue this point with you, Steven, because this is...
But I think we can agree that Black Eagles are trash.
Absolutely. Take out Dorothea. Take out... There's one other good person in there.
Linhardt. Linhardt's good.
There's one other one, though.
Caspar. I liked Caspar.
But there's a redhead dude who he's a little bit of a ladies' man.
No.
But
No, not him. No.
No?
Wait. Ladies, are you thinking of Sylvain?
I believe so. He's got red hair.
He's Blue Lions.
There's somebody that Dorothea can possibly have a love interest in. I think she calls him Finney or Frederick or something.
Ferdinand?
Huh?
Ferdinand?
Yes.
He sucks.
Well, whatever. Best game, 2019, absolutely. It was robbed at the game of the Year awards.
Yep.
But the people have spoken. We have spoken. You have spoken.
Yes.
And it will be remembered.
When you get down to
it will be treasured.
When you get right down to it, Fire Emblem, when you look at all these games and what they tried to do, Fire Emblem, 10 out of 10 in what it tried to do. It really was. But it also made itself in such a way so accessible that it exceeded that I'm going to set out to do this one thing and only be accessible to this one thing. And it became something where someone like Jake, who looked at it at first and was like, I don't know about this, and then played it and was like, oh, I get it.
I know about this now.
To me, Fire Emblem is to the turn-based tactical or strategy genre what Skyrim did for the fantasy RPG genre. It is the perfect gateway. Fight me.
It's the weed of tactical RPGs, you know what I mean? Especially if you're playing Golden Deer. We had a lot of weed.
I'm sure they do.
They really do. But anyway, wow. What a great year. You know, all in all, I next year, man, we're going to be fighting. Like, fisticuffs. There's so many good games. Or like big
this
games
year
coming out. This was a good
This year was kind of disappointing.
B-tier year for games. We had a lot of B-tier games. Like no C-tier, no, very few D-tier. It was all just really decent games.
I feel like this year met expectations to the most part.
Yeah.
Like we were pretty excited about a lot of games, and we played them and we were like, that was good.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions like Fire Emblem, and some of the others we mentioned. But for the most part, 2019 met expectations, good or bad.
Excellent segue, Steven. Met expectations, except for what were your games this year that you were disappointed in, that didn't meet your expectations? I'll go first, if you'd like. Anthem.
Go for it. Yep.
Is that yours?
That's not mine.
Oh, it's not.
That's not mine.
Well,
but I figured it would be yours.
I figured it wouldn't be yours because I know you do have a soft spot for what they're trying to do, and you
yes.
I to some degree I agree with you. They have since launch done a lot in the right direction, but I'm afraid that steam's already gone. You know what I mean? They
oh, absolutely.
It's too little, too late. maybe we'll have a No Man's Sky story next year. But, just a huge disappointment.
It had a great foundation, but like there was just not much above that foundation. Like the gameplay loop was great. Like that moment to moment flying around in a javelin, shooting things, priming and detonating, all that stuff is just great. The loot was even pretty okay.
Yeah.
But there's just such a lack of variety and depth where like you play it, and I've gone back to it a few times with Jeremy.
Yeah.
But every time we go back to it, we play it and we're just like, oh man, I've missed this game. And then less than a week later, it's just like, yeah, let's come back to it another time.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough to keep you there.
Absolutely.
But
and it's disappointing because, like I said, I mean, if again we going back to what did we say we were most excited about at the beginning of this year? Anthem was on my list. In fact, it might have been number one if I remember right.
Yep.
I was very excited about the game. So I hate that it just didn't hit the mark like I wanted it to. But anyway,
right.
You can get it real cheap now if you want to try it out for yourself. Tell me I'm wrong.
And honestly, the price you can get it for, it's totally worth it.
Oh yeah,
it's a fun game.
I mean, I've seen it for as
But
low as $20, and I totally think that's worth it.
I think if you've got at least one other person, it's worth the $20 because the gameplay loop is great, and they are going to try to turn this game around.
Yeah.
We already know that they're going to try, so it's better to get in on the ground floor now rather than, wait
till
later
it's
on
hot
because you
sauce
may
again,
get
and then
for
it's
it.
$30,
Yeah.
$40, whatever. So
Just don't expect to get a Destiny level of commitment. It's definitely on the opposite end of Destiny, where I think Destiny is too much. Anthem is not enough.
yeah.
So, I guess that's my turn now.
Yep.
What do you think my most disappointing game is?
Man, I mean, because Anthem was mine, I was that's kind of the only place that my brain really went to. I'm trying to think of what.
Hold that thought. While Jake is trying to figure this out, as he thinks for his answer, chat, anyone watching, I want to hear your guesses now. What do you think is my most disappointing game of 2019? Or biggest disappointment of 2019?
Trying to think of what that would be that you played. It's a game that came out this year.
It's a game that came out this year.
Was it Metro?
No, it's not Death Stranding. No. Metro almost went on this list, but...
That's why I threw it out there, because I thought it would be on the list, but...
Metro met expectations, didn't exceed them too much, but I thought it was a fitting end to the story, so it was there, and then it wasn't, and I'm glad it was.
It's not Control.
Correct.
Okay. Is it... It's not Fallen Order, is it?
No.
Okay.
No. Those were both honorable mentions from my
Help me
best.
narrow it down. What platform did you play it on?
PlayStation.
What month did it come out?
March.
Oh man. Trying to think. I know there was some game you were so excited about in March. Oh, hang on. I can figure this out. Give me a second.
Losing daylight, Jake.
No, we're not. The sun sets when I set.
I think the sun's already gone, actually.
No.
We're losing time.
No, Steven, that's just the tornado. The tornado blocked out the sun, but it's still there. March. What came out?
You're looking
Division 2?
You're looking at Division 2, my most disappointing game of 2019.
Wow.
Here's why.
Wow.
This is not worst game of 2019.
Right. No. Absolutely. This is just the game that we were most disappointed in.
The game that we were most disappointed with. If you listen to me talk about Division 2 early on, I'm all about it. They did a great job with the initial climb to 30. But then when you get to end game, you hit so many problems, and you guys have heard me talk about it. The developers didn't know what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So every single few weeks or so, the game completely changed. The meta would go from skills are kind of useful to only guns are useful, then back to, okay, skills are useful again. We're trying to balance everything out. So this game, for the past 9 months that it's been out, and it's a good game,
Mm-hmm.
but the end game is incredibly frustrating, or was for a really long time. It's gotten better now, but they had such a great foundation, and this is why it's disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
The end game for Division 1, where we left it, was fantastic. It was great. There were so many sets to pursue. There were really good exotics to pursue, and weapon exotics. The armor exotics kind of sucked. But the exotic weapons were great. There were so many different activities. There was survival mode, which was a great battle royale mode. It was the only battle royale mode that I actually like, and it's arguably the first one. Fight me on that too. There was the resistance mode, which was just a wave-based horde mode. There was underground, which was randomized dungeons. There were bounties. There were missions. There were incursions. There were just so many things to do, and there were so many things that you wanted to find, and the builds that you could create were awesome. Like, you could do so many different things. There were viable tank builds. There were viable gun builds. There were viable skill builds. And then we get to Division 2, and they don't take any of the goodwill that they built. They don't do anything with the goodwill that they built in Division 1. They try to streamline it and make it to where skills are more of a utility now. You can't really make skill-based builds. If you want to be a healer, good freaking luck, even though you're going to need a healer. If you want to be able to do anything anytime, do this gun, this armor. Like, they created such an unhealthy meta to where if you weren't playing the game a certain way, you were a liability. Mm-hmm. And they've done better since. Like, when they released the Technician pretty recently, that's my new specialization, and I love it. And I actually have a playstyle now. Mm-hmm. It's great. But that being said, it's just been, for anyone who plays Division, it's been incredibly frustrating because it's really hard to create builds in Division 2, mm-hmm. and they're basically making any build that you create obsolete a few weeks after you make it.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that the goodwill that they built with the Technician, I forget what they called it, with the update that came out with the Technician, I really hope that they just move forward from here and that we can just be like, okay, yeah, those first 7 months
right,
were bad.
Mm-hmm.
But we know what we want now, so let's move forward. Because for most of this year, it's just been like, come on, Division, figure out what you want to be, and then just commit to it, do something. Mm-hmm. And that's been really frustrating. And that's been a huge disappointment because Division 2 was probably number 1 or 2 on my most anticipated. Mm-hmm. And I was gearing up to have a bunch of people play this game with me. Jeremy and I both were. Mm-hmm. We were really excited. And we still play it every now and then, but when it comes down to it, they really dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And I hope that in 2020 they can pick it up and start running.
It's interesting to me, and I don't know if we can really glean anything from this, but it's interesting to me that both, like, the games we were most disappointed with were games of service. And
Destiny 2 is an unspoken honorable mention, so you can add that to the list.
I'll let that be yours. I'm actually was playing Destiny 2 before we got in here, in the tornado game, but and I'm probably gonna play it before I go to dinner, but if I have time, I don't know. Anyway, I digress. I don't know if we can glean anything from that, but I think that's interesting to just kind of know about you and I. None of the, like, we did not, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm blanking on yours. I've just got my list in front of me. None of these are games of service, you know? None of these are a reoccurring game, right?
MMO light, yeah, no.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, I know Destiny 2 was on my list the year it came out. I guess that was what, 2017. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So obviously, but that was kind of my first, and I've just been hooked ever since.
Right.
But interesting indeed. Well,
So my the only thing I guess you could glean from that is Destiny seems to be the one setting the trends. And games are either trying really hard to do what they aren't doing or trying really hard to do what they are doing. And neither is working.
right.
Because Division 2 tried too hard to be like Destiny 2, leaving behind a lot of what its goodwill in Division 1. And then Anthem kind of felt like it was trying really hard to be what Destiny was not. Yeah. And I guess what we've learned is that no matter what, if you try to base your game and your approach on something that you are not, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Just do what you want to do. Make the game
Create
you want to
something
make.
unique.
Don't worry about. Obviously, be aware, of what other people are doing. Don't do something stupid. That right. Don't use a game mechanic that someone else has made dramatically easier. Feel free to study what others are doing. Don't operate in a box. But
Right.
do what you want to do. Make the game you want to make and stick to it. Commit to that. And the people who want that experience, if you do it well, will come and they'll enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Then we won't have a worst or a most disappointing game of 2020, hopefully.
Right.
But I'm sure we will. Because there's Watchdog Legion. And as excited as I am for that, I'm just going to go ahead and just toss this out there. That's probably going to be mine.
Yeah. That's a really good early pick for most disappointing of 2020.
You know what? I've just decided to think about it. We're going to throw that into next week.
Okay, so next week, we're not only doing most anticipated of 2020, we're doing most likely to be most disappointing of 2020.
Yes, absolutely. That's going to be great. I think we should pick it off of our list. You know what I mean? Like, we present our top 5, and we say, this is the one I'm going to be most disappointed in.
This is the one that's going to suck.
I love it. Well, like we're saying, next week's podcast is going to be our games we're most excited about for 2020. That'll be early January, so I think it's January 6th is when that podcast is going to air. So, we're going to come in and do that live. It's going to be, or not live, but as live as this pre-recorded thing the day before is. But anyway, so that's going to be exciting and fun. But yeah, we've got through that category. Now I want to transition. We've had almost 45 minutes of discussion, maybe closer to an hour, for folks to mull over the question at the beginning of what was, we're at the end of a decade. What were the most influential games there? Kalen, the alien, as he goes by in our Discord, and I'm pretty sure if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see him there. I think he has a different name on Twitch. Anyway, he presented kind of this idea of what if we talked about the most influential games of the last decade. Steven and I really like the idea.
Yeah.
We're right in the heat of Christmas and New Year's, and so we just have not had time. And we kind of talked about this. We were like, I wish we had thought of this 2 weeks ago so that I could have prepared more.
And what we're going to do here is we've posed the question to you guys just to create a dialogue because it's an interesting idea because people will see this differently than others. But there is a chance that maybe down the road we may do something like this in like an editorial or something, or video essay or whatever. I don't know, maybe. But for now, we just wanted to make sure that we did have this discussion in more of a discussion format about what Kalen proposed to be the most influential games, and see if any of the ones that you guys mentioned are in this list, or if you agree, disagree, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
I've got his list pulled up. Do you want me to?
I do as well. I was just going to say, basically what I want to do is I'm going to read off the games that he's listed. I'm going to try to do them in order of date. He posted them out of order, so I'm kind of going to be jumping around. And then he listed some reasons why. But I figured we'd just go down the list, look at the reason, talk about it a little bit. I know there's one that, unless I'm just skimming over it, and I've looked at this a couple times now, I've got several things that I would want to drop in here that I don't, I know some of their dates, but I don't know others. So let's just start at the top. So the first game on this list comes from 2011, Dark Souls. Kalen said it bred intrepid
sadomasochists.
Thank you. Fighting unique bosses in a new genre of games. I guess I didn't realize. Obviously, we call it a Souls game. Dark Souls being the first of its kind, but I never really thought about that. Right. How that kind of created a new genre.
Yeah, technically, Dark Souls was the second of its kind, but it was the first of its popular. Demon Souls was before Dark Souls. Dark Souls is when it really took off. And I agree with Kalen here that Dark Souls was really influential because not only did it create kind of the Souls-like subgenre, but also it kind of became the standard. Like it revitalized the standard of basically tryhards in gaming, right. Like people who play really challenging games on really challenging difficulties, and in the culture that we live in, where everyone can be a creator online, games like that were great for people to watch because it was just like, oh wow, this dude beat Dark Souls 1 in 15 minutes with no hits using a Guitar Hero controller. Sign me up for that. I'm gonna watch it. Like crazy stuff like that. And Dark Souls was kind of what fueled that kind of get good culture of basically the in the ABCs of why we play video games. If you look at the psychological reasons for why we play video games, Dark Souls is a great modern example of the competency that people play video games for. I am facing a challenge. I will overcome that challenge. That's a huge driving force for people. And Dark Souls really popularized that in beyond just retro games from the past and made it kind of a trend of the now.
Absolutely. I mean, a good metric for was a game influential in this decade is if we now categorize something as Souls-like, yes. If we now refer to a game like, oh, it's like Dark Souls, if we say that, yeah. Oh yeah, that was probably an influential game that should be on this list. Right. Going right along, and again, I'm trying to stay in numerical order, so I'm looking for 2012.
Skyrim's on there as well.
It's Skyrim 2012. He didn't put that on this list, but that's one you want to talk about.
I'm seeing that. Skyrim. Well, Skyrim 2011. I don't know if I would say that it is an influential game. It is an extremely influential game in that most RPGs after it, like single player RPGs, a lot of them tried to mimic what Skyrim did. But I would say that Skyrim has been it's been kind of like an old friend that's traveled through the entire decade with us.
In a way, because it just keeps releasing.
It just keeps coming back. It's that game that's just like, you know what? Wherever you end up, buddy, I'll be there. Just wait. And it's a game that people revisit. People still play Skyrim to this day, and they love it. And the most important thing I think that it probably did was it did kind of bring the fantasy RPG into popularization. Yeah. Because most people I know that play video games these days, if you ask them what their first real fantasy RPG was, they will say Skyrim.
Yep.
And they probably still play it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Let me see. So the next thing that I'm seeing that's close to that date is Telltale's The Walking Dead in 2012. Kalen says this game put Telltale Studio on the map. Its art style was wholly unique, with simple gameplay that accentuated the storytelling. It spawned additional seasons as well as other series. When Telltale went bankrupt, it was saved by a third-party studio who adopted the Telltale name, proving that Telltale had become a household name and had name recognition amongst gamers. Man, I can't read, and I'm dealing with sinus. I definitely think Telltale could be considered a staple of this decade. They had a lot of different games come out, and definitely their style was established. You know, we look at things and say, like I look at, what's it called? It's not a Telltale game. It's a Square Enix game. What am I thinking of?
Life is Strange.
Life is Strange. I call that a Telltale-like game, you know? And it's a genre that I personally haven't gotten into or gotten invested into, even when they brought Batman into the fold, which would have, I mean, if anything was going to do it, that was it. So right. I definitely think it stands out as something that is a staple of what this decade meant in gaming. Moving right along,
it also
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say it also just Telltale Games kind of showed that video games don't have to be what you might think they are.
Exactly.
Video games are stories that you can experience in a lot of different ways that can make you cry. And Walking Dead specifically is one of those that just like told a very emotional, personal, intimate story. And it really set the stage for every game that looks like it from that point on, whether Telltale or not. It kind of reset the standard for choose your own adventure games.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one, Grand Theft Auto 5, 2013. Still, to this day, one of the best-selling games. Constantly, every month, it's in the top 10, just about. Yep. Always there. You want to talk about a game that stuck with us this whole generation? Like, sure, Skyrim came 2 years before it, but, man, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been here since then, and it's probably not going to go away until they make the next one. Kalen said, many elements of this production saw to its overwhelming sales figures and critical success from its existence fan base, its subtle commentary on capitalism in the form of parody, and its groundbreaking graphical fidelity, and what he doesn't mention here, but like just the online freedom, you know, that you have in the online play is what's kept that game around. So again, I don't know that it's influential. Like I don't know that many games have changed.
I would say that
it.
it was. I would say that it's influential for the industry, like from a wow, this is the most selling piece of entertainment in history, like multimedia entertainment, and that's a big deal. But I wouldn't say that, and this. I'm not going into this with a script. This is just my pure thoughts going off of a little sleep on a Sunday afternoon. But I wouldn't say that Grand Theft Auto 5 inspired other developers or other games after it. And I don't think Rockstar really does that anymore. Right. For a while, Grand Theft Auto was, like, people were trying to mimic it. I mean, just look at Saints Row. Yeah. But I don't think Rockstar is really a trendsetter anymore because I think they're kind of off doing their own thing and no one really tries to kind of touch what they do because they lock themselves away in a cave for 10 years and they come out with a game that people consider a masterpiece. That's just kind of what they do.
Let's see. Still in 2013, Last of Us. Not part 1, but part 1. Man, Can you remember?
What?
Well, you played Last of Us late, and I played Last of Us late, but not as late as you. What a game!
I remember when that game first came out, and I remember, I remember how much it exploded.
Yeah.
And I would say that Last of Us is one of those games that for a lot of people, and most people had probably already had this, but Last of Us, I think, really nailed it for a lot of people. It was that moment when it clicked where people were like, oh, video games are like on par with film.
Yeah.
As far as like visual storytelling and just cinematic experience is concerned. Because like that's how Last of Us felt. It was a movie with great characters, great moments that you played, and the biggest innovation it probably did, the thing it probably did the most for the industry, and again, this is just my spur of the moment thoughts, probably comes down to the connection that it made between performer and character. Because Troy Baker as Joel, and I forget the actress that plays Ellie, but like when you look at how much they put into it as far as like mocap and everything is concerned, those are the best some of the best performances we've had in video games like ever.
Absolutely.
And Last of Us is one of those games that when you look at like what it means to be a performer in a video game, that's one of those games that's just like they were basically acting in a film. And just props to them, like because it is one of those games that it's an experience, and I do feel like if you haven't played a game like it that has made you make that realization, Last of Us, if you play it, will be that realization for you that video games are a form of narrative storytelling, whatever, that are here to stay and are here to say something.
Yeah, definitely. Just to kind of echo your sentiments, it's one of the first examples of, oh wow, video games have a story to tell, and so that I don't know that I would say it influenced other games to do anything different, but I do think it opened the door to the industry of, oh wow, we can go this far. We can do movie quality story in a game.
Yeah, it was more of like an inspiration rather than a like, hey, let's do what Last of Us did, but more so like, hey, let's Last of Us showed us that we can do this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Moving along Kaylin's list here, the next thing I see as far as year is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt 2015. Now, he didn't mention why he thought this was the most should be on an influential list. And I was thinking about this today because originally I was going to make this category, just what was our most influential game. And The Witcher 3 was one of the games that I wanted to put on there. But really, ultimately, I think it could kind of fall in the same category as like Skyrim, of it just took what RPGs are, made it better, and then made it accessible to a larger audience.
Right.
And that's so ironic with it being a third of its kind. A lot of people jumped in at the third and final in this trilogy of games. And it put CD Projekt Red on the map, They're a household name, I'd say now. And, I mean, Cyberpunk is something we're so excited about. Go ahead.
I agree with that. And I wholeheartely agree because, like, when we brought up this topic, I was afraid that people would be like, Breath of the Wild. One of the most influential games of the decade. And I hear that, and I have the same reaction as to what you said with Wild Hunt. Like, not really influential for the industry as a whole. Like, it wasn't an important game for the industry. Sure, Breath of the Wild showed, like, reinvented what a Zelda game is, but it did so by doing what everyone else was doing in its own way.
I disagree with that, specifically with Breath of the Wild. And the reason I say that is what I think Breath of the Wild did, and I was going to get to this later on, but we're close enough at this point anyway. What I think Breath of the Wild did that I would say makes it an influential game is similar to what I think God of War did, which is it started this trend and what I would say kind of like Souls, like, oh, that's a Souls game, or, you know, I wish someone would make this a Souls type game. I always say I can't wait for them to Breath of the Wild this. And what I mean by that is Zelda, already a popular IP, they took what other games were doing in an open world environment and threw Zelda into that, which breathed all this new life into the Zelda IP, but then they took what people were already doing and took it to the next level. And with Zelda in particular, the whole, like, when you talk about open world, no open world game is as open as Breath of the Wild. You can literally go anywhere.
So you're saying that you would consider Breath of the Wild an influential or important game because it set the trend of IPs that have an established foothold being able to redefine themselves.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
That's
okay.
That's where I come at. Now, I pretty much agree with you. They didn't do really the one thing that they did, in my opinion, that was new was this idea of a truly open world. And really what it is adding that climbing in. You can go anywhere if you can figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? And like, sure, Skyrim, you know, people have climbed the mountains on horses and glitched and whatever. But like, for the game to say, yeah, if you can figure out how to get up there, yeah, you can go up there. Like, I mean, literally.
Yeah, that's usually an empty promise, but Breath of the Wild delivered.
They truly delivered.
You really can.
And that's the only thing that I would say is new, but I don't know that I'd say it's influential yet. Like you kind of you said it best. It's influential because it's revitalizing something.
It's influential because it was so successful at influencing itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the first that did the if you can see it, you can go there, but it definitely did it the best or one of the best that we've seen.
Horizon, which I don't know that I'd put on a most influential, but I would say is one of like the best games of the decade. They also said that. A lot of open world games say that.
They all say that.
Do what?
They all say that. What they really mean by that usually is there is no loading screen between you and that.
Exactly. But Nintendo took that to the literal.
They were literal.
They were literal with it.
They were literal. Yes.
So, but anyway,
sorry, I didn't mean
no, that's fine. To kind of wrap up my bow on Wild Hunt, I kind of think it falls in a similar category of it didn't do anything new or I would say influential, but what it did so well that it is going to be a staple of this decade. You know, if you were to put a top 10 list of this decade, I would probably throw Witcher in there, you know?
Right. Like just as far as like most well-crafted games, but not necessarily the games that changed anything.
Absolutely. I'm talking about just best. Like honestly, I'm talking about if we took the game of the years from 2010 to I guess 2019. Like, I don't know if Witcher made it in 2015. If that was the game of the year, I don't remember. I think it was.
It was the game of the year when it came out. I'm pretty sure. Well, then,
absolutely. I think if we were to take all of the game of the years from this past decade, that would be one on it. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I don't think it was influential. You know what I mean? Like, I don't say, oh man, I wish they would do what what Witcher 3 did. You know, so.
Right. So I'm gonna mention. We probably should be wrapping up pretty soon because it's getting late. But the last two that I would probably like to mention because they seem very much worth mentioning. Destiny, not 2, Destiny 1.
Okay.
Because Destiny 2 obviously is the current of Destiny, but Destiny 1, I don't know if you felt this, and I allude to it all the time. But when Destiny 1 came out back in, I want to say 2014, I think it was 2014.
Fact check, yeah.
Okay. When it came out in 2014, everything changed.
2014.
Like regardless of how you feel, regardless of how you feel about Destiny as a game, especially like back then, because I know it did not launch to such hot reviews, but things were different when Destiny gave us this concept of the loot of Borderlands, but the openness and community of World of Warcraft, like something like that. Like it was this new thing that suddenly so many big developers wanted it on. And we've never been the same. Like the industry has never been the same. There are so many games out there that are trying to capture that games as service. Because honestly, Destiny is the game that, I don't know if it was the first, but it definitely feels like it popularized the games as service genre. To where now every game that comes out, they've got a roadmap. They have plans to get more money out of you or to keep you playing their game. Sometimes it's for the better. Most of the times it's for the worse. But in a lot of cases, that means games like World War Z, which is a great game that gets a bunch of free content with a little bit of incentive to have you pay more to get maybe an exclusive gun or a skin or something like that. But at the end of the day, they're supporting the game that you enjoy playing just so you'll play it more down the road. That's a good development of a games as service. But there are other games like Far Cry 5, a game that should have been single player focused with with co-op as an option for campaign. With the multiplayer was great. We have nothing really bad to say about Arcade. It kind of got us to where we are. But you add that games of service as service aspect to a game like Far Cry, and suddenly you've got a problem because every game feels like it needs to have your attention all the time for as long as it can.
It can't work that way.
Right. Because you have games like Far Cry being an example, because I definitely felt it a lot in Far Cry. That is a game that I wanted to be able to play through the story as intended, day one, and just let myself remember it, you know? Like games now don't know how to not overstay their welcome. And I know there were a lot of negatives in there. Games are just so eager to stay longer than they should. And in doing so, they don't leave an impact as much. And I think that's why Outer Worlds kind of left an impact on me, because it felt like it wasn't always like, hey, come back to me. New gun. Hey, new skin.
New planet.
It was just like, here's a really good RPG, self-contained, and you're always going to remember it. And I will. And Destiny 1 is where that all started, I feel like. That's where I noticed it starting. And again, sometimes it works. There are games out there that really get a lot of love. Monster Hunter World is another good example of that. It is very much heightened by the games as service aspect. But so many other games, when you get those single player or co-op or whatever experiences, the games that aren't supposed to be played on loop, then you got a problem. And Destiny was the start of that.
I quickly want to mention two more, and then I think we'll wrap this up. We can't go on without discussing Fortnite. 2017.
That was the next
borrowing,
one.
From H1Z1 and PUBG's Battle Royale mode, and then
Division 1's Battle Royale mode.
Yep,
it's a thing,
and dropping it free on consoles, and and then just taking off and blowing up and breaking a barrier. They put it in the effing Avengers. You know what I mean? The
biggest movie of all time. Fortnite's
biggest movie of all time. Fortnite is in it. And then the Avengers is in Fortnite. Star Wars.
Yep.
Not even on the same level as Avengers.
The piece of plot to start the final movie of the Skywalker saga is only in Fortnite.
If you want to say, Fortnite was an influential game in this decade, I would say it's influential in how big it got and how everyone now is going to want to achieve that.
Yep.
Is it possible? Who knows? You know what I mean? Apex came in, tried to do it. We're back to Fortnite. You know what I mean?
So, honestly, I feel like Fortnite, we started to feel the influence it had when every game started to have a battle royale. Mm-hmm. I mean, freaking Forza Horizon's getting a battle royale. Think about that. But I think that we've only begun to feel its influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like Destiny kind of brought the games as service aspect into the industry, Fortnite is doing the same thing. Like it's kind of escalating that to Battle Pass. Battle Pass was a huge Fortnite thing. I think Fortnite was the first to do it. It definitely popularized it.
I don't think they were the first, but they did absolutely popularize it.
Yeah, they absolutely popularized it to where now any game that is vying for your attention is adding those extra layers of...
Destiny added it, who we just talked about how they were so influential of creating this games of service element. Yeah. And now they're taken from Fortnite, they're borrowing from each other. And so it's crazy. There's a lot more we can say about Fortnite, but I want to keep moving so we can wrap this up. The last one I'm going to mention here is No Man's Sky. And the only thing I really want to say about that is, again, it's one of those things like, I hope they Breath of the Wild eyes that, or, I hope they, this is a Souls type game. We look at games like Anthem and we say, I hope this has a No Man's Sky experience. And what I mean by that is No Man's Sky was released, was horrible, was bombed, did not do well. They hunkered down, they buckled up, and they worked on the game until it was what they promised. And it came back to critical acclaim. People are writing books about this story. Like, they turned it around. You know what I mean? And that's hard. Yeah. Especially when you hit the ground as hard as they did. I mean, it was bad. But they turned it around. And so...
honestly, it's for indie games, it's an inspiration. Yeah. For those developers who have a passion about their game, who they have to meet deadlines, they have to hit that bottom line. So they release their game, and it matters to them. Like, if this game doesn't turn around, we're done. But then you've got the other side of the story, and it's funny because No Man's Sky wasn't the first to start doing this, but it was definitely the most documented story. The first, the biggest, the start of that kind of trend, that at least when I started to notice it, was Ubisoft and Rainbow Six Siege. Ubisoft started this trend, and I think it was around Rainbow Six Siege in 2015, where when they released a game that was broken, they fixed it. I think Assassin's Creed Unity actually may have been that way as well. So that would have been 2014.
I don't know if they ever fixed that.
Well, they definitely addressed it. They did not release it and just be like, thanks for the money. Ubisoft did this thing that was, it was it was openness, and it was admitting fault, and they tackled the problem, and they would fix it. They did it with Siege. They did it with Division 1. They're currently in the thick of it with Division 2, and they've done it with other games. I think For Honor even had that issue. Like, so now you've got a problem suddenly where Ubisoft's created for themselves. Oh, Ubisoft game's coming out? Cool. I'll wait for it to be broken, then drop in price, buy it during the drop in price, and wait for them to fix it. And that's a problem. But then you've got when that trend bleeds over to EA, which is so like you've got those stories that are, oh, we can release this whenever,
right?
Because we can just fix it. We'll edit it in post, and so for indie developers, the story of No Man's Sky is an inspiration, but it's almost a scary crutch. Like, it's the world we live in now, where for even Cats, the movie, they had to patch the movie because CGI was missing.
Yeah.
They straight up forgot to CGI a character's hand. So it was a human hand, and the wedding ring was there. So they released in first ever video game patch for a film in history.
It's,
and that's the world we live in.
Art imitates art.
Release it broken. Yeah. It's the whole don't ask for permission, beg for forgiveness. It's that whole kind of thing. And it's a good thing to have. Like, it's good knowing that the industry is in such a place to where things do get fixed. But it's bad knowing there are entities out there that exploit that knowledge.
Right.
That they know that they can just be like, we fixed it, and just not apologize about it.
Very quickly, Stephen, as we close this topic, just raw emotion. What was your favorite game of the decade? And we don't have time for a long explanation about it, but just what was your favorite?
XCOM 2.
Really? Okay. All right.
XCOM.
Yeah.
Just XCOM.
I have two that I'm pretty warring between, and then there's a third that I think just deserves a mention. But for me, my number one is Breath of the Wild. I think that was my favorite game of the decade. It was such an amazing experience, and I loved it. The second one that I'm warring between is Witcher 3, because that was a series and a world that I knew nothing about, and I met it this decade, and I hope I am still loving it decades from now. And then a last word just to say, to make sure it's not forgotten, God of War, absolutely, is a game that I think could be the best game of the decade. Talking about taking that top 10 list, obviously we could take the 10 games of the year, but put them in order. I wouldn't be shocked to see if most people would even put that at the top.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if I may, real quick, just add another one or two to my list, because I feel like it Spider-Man. I cannot tell you another experience I've had playing a video game
with that much joy
that has made me feel such joy. Yeah, because that first web swing, and I kept that feeling. That feeling never went away. I was a kid again, and it was a great feeling, and that's impressive. You talk about leaving an impact. Spider-Man is one of those games that didn't overstay its welcome. It had something to say, and I will never forget it. I will never forget that first web swing in Spider-Man for PS4. I already said XCOM. Guild Wars 2.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
Put a lot of time in that game. That game, not... See, I have to explain this one just a little bit. Not favorite, not best of the decade, but definitely some of the most memories.
I'm gonna toss Destiny 2 into that pot of most memories, and we'll move on from there. Hey everybody, thank you for watching this episode of Chortlecast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. Do hope you've had fun in the chat discussing your game of the decade and most influential games of this decade. It's awesome to see we're coming to the end of a decade and an end of a great year of video games. If you have enjoyed the show, you can do a couple things to help us out. Number one, if you like this video on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, we really appreciate that. Follow us, subscribe on those platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, you're at chortlegames.com. You can check us out there. If you're watching on Twitch, you're at chortle_games. And then Facebook is at chortlegames. And we appreciate all of you on all those platforms. And then, of course, if you're an audio listener, Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you as well. We'd love it if you could leave us a review. That really helps people find the podcast, so we'd appreciate that. You can stick with us and follow us along in our Discord. You can get to that in the description link in this video or podcast if you're an audio listener. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Chortle Games. So anyway, Steven, thank you for your great conversation with your top 5 games of 2019, your most disappointing game of 2019. And then all the discussions we've had about this great decade of gaming. This is our last produced piece of content for 2019. We are going to be having a live stream tomorrow night. That's Monday. I guess so tonight. For anybody that's watching this right now, it'll probably be coming on right after this podcast because the podcast airs every Monday at 7 o'clock Central Time. I'm not 7 o'clock Central Time, unless everything goes wrong like it normally does. It's supposed to go live at 5 p.m. Central Time. But anyway, we'll probably have a live stream going. Steven wants to play Monster Hunter. He wants to drag me through, so we're going to do that. And then we will not have anything. We are talking about doing a quick live stream just to count down into the new year. You might get to see a little tipsy Jake. And maybe a little tipsy Steven? Maybe?
Nope.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to throw it out there. Give me a little hope here, Steven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I want to take this moment now, while kind of what could be considered the last official moment to say thank you for watching us this year. Thank you for being here this year with us. We love being on this journey, and are just really enjoying the content that we're doing now. We're doing a lot more live streams. I'm really enjoying the podcast right now. And we just appreciate you guys and the community that we're growing together here. And so just thank you for watching us this year. We really, really appreciate it. And without further ado, I've got to go eat dinner. Steven's probably got to go home to his wife. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next year.
Next year.
Next decade.